Hi, everyone. Welcome to another True You podcast with me, Paula Burns, wedding planner and creative business mentor. So this is the place where we have open discussions to understand who we are in order that we can live our lives to the fullest. So I'm back again this week with another amazing guest, and my guests every week are guests who I feel are just knocking it out the park with their lives in terms of living their true self. And what I also wanted to say right now is that being your true self doesn't mean that everything's perfect with your life. It just means that you are in tune with where you need to be and where you are going. And so my guests all reflect that. So as I said, I've got another amazing guest. I've known this lady probably for a couple of years. Met her through a sister who's done a podcast with me as well a while ago. But I'm really excited to have this conversation to find out more about her lifestyle and how she feels about the amazing life that she's living. So let's get straight into it. And I want to give a warm welcome to Nicky Taylor. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Paula. I'm so thrilled to be with you.
Oh, it's great. So I'm just going to warn everyone listening, this is going to be an exciting chat. You can tell that Nicky was already really excited to be on this podcast. So yeah, let's get into it, Nicky. Tell everyone, what is it that you do?
Wonderful. Thank you, Paula. And hey, everybody. So delighted to be with you all. So I'm Nicky Taylor, and I'm a business and life coach and also a property investor. So founder of a number of companies, HMO Heaven, which is a property management business, Rent to Rent Success, which is a property coaching business, and Blow Up Your Life, which is all about helping people get to their true you. So aligned with your podcast, Paula.
Oh, it really is. Do you know what? I just love your story and the waves that you were making, you know, both you and your sister. You've mentioned what, 3 businesses there that you are running. And just to sort of like give people a little bit of context on this, you didn't start doing this all at once, did you? This is definitely been a journey. This is something that I always share with people, that, you know, you look at other people's lives and you think, oh my gosh, they're doing all these things, how amazing, you know, I could never be like them. But you are the perfect example that, you know, you've created. It's like a dynasty, really, isn't it? Dynasty or a dynasty, however people say it. But you've created something that is just so special. So these businesses, tell people a little bit about them. What they involve.
And you're so right, Paula. You know, for decades, you know, maybe 30, almost 40 years. Oh, I'm giving clues to my age. Maybe less than that. I was in financial services in the corporate world, working hard for somebody else. And in my early 40s, I decided, actually, I've had enough. This isn't for me. I need to be doing something else. And so actually those 3 businesses we founded in the last 7 years, which again sounds like, oh my God, that's that's a short space of time to have 3 successful businesses. But it was really an evolution. So we started with HMO Heaven, which is our property management business. And my sister Stephanie and I set that up to move away from our own 9-to-5s, to create more time freedom in our lives, because we felt that there had to be more than the routine, let's say, that had become our lives. And then from there, people kept asking us, oh my gosh, we can see how you've transformed your life and, you know, what you're doing in your space. How did you do it? Show us how to do it. And that's how Rent to Rent Success, our coaching business, was born. And then as we started to show people and see the tremendous transformational results that they were getting, we wanted to delve deeper and deeper. And so we became certified life coaches. And that's how we then entered and thought we'd help people better in a more formalized way by setting up the business Blow Up Your Life.
Yeah. The steps are so important, aren't they?
Yeah.
I can't stress this enough, you know, especially when I work with my mentees, you know, my mentoring clients, that it's the steps that get you to where you and gives you the success. You know, you can't start in the middle You can't start at the top. You have to do those steps, and then they take you. And yours naturally created,
Yeah.
the environment that you have now,
Yeah.
and the success.
Yeah, for sure. We didn't start in 2016 when we created HMO Heaven. We hadn't a Scooby-Doo clue that we were going to end up as certified life coaches, or to be #1 bestseller authors, or to create our own podcast, Rent to Rent Success. That all came afterwards. So it's just about, for me, recognizing that we've got all that we need to deliver for ourselves. We've just got to lean into that. And sometimes that can be scary. But essentially, if we just take the very next step, it's amazing where you can end up.
Yeah, because it's each bit of experience that you learn in each of the steps that takes you to the next one.
Exactly.
So that's why you can't skip them. You have to do the steps so you have that experience.
Exactly.
And then it takes you to the next step, and then the next.
And even when it feels like it's going wrong, that's when you really kind of have to maybe give yourself a little cuddle and a hug and remind yourself that you're in exactly the right place.
And when you learn, isn't it, is when things are going wrong. That's your development.
Yeah. I really wish that we would get a bit smarter about educating our youngsters as they grow up. Because at school, we're taught that failure is bad, and there's a right way and anything else is wrong. Everything else gets the red cross. When actually, really, it's that failure shouldn't be viewed as a negative word. It should be, okay, we've worked out what doesn't work so well for us in this moment. How can we tweak it? How can we move on? And if we kind of adopted that kind of mentality, we wouldn't be so black and white in, it's gone wrong, I need to stop, this isn't going to work. And just like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I've identified that isn't going to work in this situation. Let me be resourceful. Let me find what could work.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like you've hit the nail on the head. I feel like so many young people, and then as we grow and we get older, is that we are always striving to be perfect. Everything is just going to be just right. I've got to be able to say this right. I've got to be able to look perfect. All these filters, all these things that are out there to just have this perfect look. There is no such thing, because we all have our little quirks, our little flaws, our little, and that's what makes us us. That's what's make you your true you.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you, what do you love about your lifestyle right now and what you do?
Goodness, that's a really good one, Paula. I think I really love the freedom that I've created for myself.
That word, freedom.
Yeah. So, and it really is a thing. Who knew? For decades, I thought that this, that's just a made up thing. That's something from fairy tales. But actually, it's available to everybody, whether you're earning £10 an hour, £50 an hour, £10,000 an hour. Everybody can choose and claim that freedom for themselves. So when Stephanie and I set up our business, we were really, really clear that we didn't just want another job, something else to replace our 9 to 5. So well-being is really key to everything that we do. We check in with each other weekly as part of our weekly meeting. And we have 3 questions that we kickstart every meeting with. And the first one is, how are you feeling? In one word, how are you feeling? So we can, scrape away all of the other chatter that might be going on and just really get present to how are we showing up? How are we feeling? And then the second question is, what's the second question? How can you improve that? Or what do you need to shift that?
You're like coaching each other, really, aren't you?
Sorry?
You're coaching each other, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, we're just giving that opportunity, that clearing, just to be the true you, to show up. Because quite often we need to be a property investor. We need to be a coach for somebody else. We need to be all of these other hats, when actually what we want to really keep present is, how is this working for me? And if it's not working, what do I need to be doing? But the third question that we ask each other is the best question of all. We say, what's the fun that you've got planned for this week?
Yeah, I love that.
Because focusing on that fun and diarising that fun means that when you're having the rough day on the Monday or the Tuesday, you can just remember, yeah, but okay, I'm just going to get through this. And on Thursday, oh my God, I can't wait to do whatever it is that we're going to be doing.
Yeah. Oh, fun. Yeah. Again, one of the other questions that and activities that I get my mentees to do, and it's just to think about their happiness. What makes them happy? And so many people forget what that is. I'm going to go into a little bit deeper here, Nicky, and ask you about your childhood. What was your childhood like? Because it's great because you work with your sister right now, don't you? But I love this question because it really gets you thinking about what type of person you were growing up and how does that reflect in your life now?
Wow. So I think that my position shifted back in 1981. So
you still a child then?
Yeah, 1981, I was 9.
Oh, right, okay.
And at that point,
so we all know your age now.
Yeah, I know. I just thought, you know what? Yeah. I'm here. Let's go.
Your true you, Nick.
Exactly. So age 9, my parents divorced. And so my recollection is that before, when mum and dad were together and were a family unit, there was so much excitement, so many different things that we would get up to. We weren't a wealthy household. We didn't have lots of money, but I definitely felt the love in the home and the protection and that it was a safe place.
Yeah.
And then with my parents divorcing, it flipped my world upside down, not least because I was a daddy's girl. And it was dad that left the family home.
Yeah.
And with that, it just kind of, just really turned things over for me. And from then, I kind of made the decision, not even kind of, for many years and decades after, I made that mean, my parents getting divorced, that I wasn't good enough. And that something was wrong with me and our unit, why my parents couldn't stay as a family, why we couldn't stay as a family. And so from that point, I realized that I needed to work harder. I needed to be the best. I needed to really deliver, first place, and nothing else was good enough. I had to deliver that standard. And of course, I was setting myself an impossible.
Just like what we were saying before.
It was an impossible journey to be on because I'm human. We're all human.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as 100% perfect. And after all, this is done to 100% might be somebody else's 0% or 2% or 20%.
Exactly.
It's all relative. So that was a very, very challenging time. But I kept my head down. I was a good student at school. But I kind of realized that something was missing. I didn't really have a focus. I didn't know. I wasn't one of those children growing up who know that they want to be a doctor and everything's driven towards being a X, Y, or Z. I had no clue whatsoever. And ultimately that led me to joining college because I had good grades. I was academically minded. That's just what you do.
Yeah.
But I dropped out before the first term ended or at the first term because actually there was nothing underpinning it. I didn't know why I was at college.
Yeah.
I was going to go into the British Army because that's what my dad did. I thought I'll go to college, go on to university and go in as an officer into the army. But that all fell apart because there was no substance behind it. It wasn't really what I wanted.
It's drifting, isn't it? It's the drifting that we drift into life because all of the circumstances around us, and we just take these steps because our parents expect us, and and then the people around us, and oh my gosh, your story is just it just hits the point.
And what I realized actually in those formative years, those really crucial years, is that I stopped dreaming. I stopped setting goals because I told myself there's no point. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for me. It's not going to be possible. So although I've achieved quite good success in my corporate life before I left financial services to set up our own businesses, it was never ever. I wasn't smelling the roses. I was too busy focusing on you know, trying to get the next award or the next promotion.
Yeah, yeah, because that was what is expected of you.
Yeah, yeah.
You thought that's what life is about, you know?
Yeah, and that's why that freedom I can now recognize is so important and so pivotal, and the focus of all that I do now.
Yeah. So how did you, I mean, you said, you know, you've got sort of quite responsible jobs and you're quite senior roles and whatever. So what were some of those steps then from those roles? Was it like, how many jobs did you do before you came to where you are now?
A few, albeit that I say
significant ones.
the same industry rather than all around, but a different job. So I'm very numerate. I've got kind of more a head for figures than for words.
Yeah.
So I thought bookkeeping, accountancy, that sort of thing was my comfort zone. And so I ended up in banking. I worked for a number of the big financial banks in London, because I'd moved to London from Birmingham by then, looking for something else. I knew I wasn't going to find it in Birmingham. Yeah, exactly. And so I worked for Citi, Bank of America, HSBC, UBS. I did a kind of tour of duty of the financial services banks. And must have been maybe 2014, I'd had enough of the whole banking circuit. I was a vice president at HSBC. Oh, no, I might be getting my terms wrong. Vice president of American Bank. So that must have been at Citi or one of the other banks. So I think I was a director at HSBC.
Yeah.
You know, enjoying a six-figure salary and all of the benefits that go with that, but really feeling leading an unfulfilled life. So everything was about the bank. Absolutely everything. I would get into work just after 9 or thereabouts. I'm more night owl than early bird. So I'd get in around the 9, but I wouldn't leave my desk till midnight, catching the last train home. And what I realized is that wasn't about the bank. That was about me. Yeah. That's how I turn up for work. There was no one else with me at midnight in the bank. Yeah. It was just me. And I kind of I was heading towards another burnout, another kind of, and I say another because essentially it's almost the burnout that made me then jump to another job or seek another job, thinking if I get another job, it's not going to be like that.
Yes, you're just trying to find that answer, isn't it? Exactly. Right? You know, maybe it's not this, it's this. Maybe it's not this. And instead of leaning in, and that's leaning in so that you can feel where you're supposed to be. And I think,
and I was scared, Paula, because I'd already created a lifestyle for myself. I was earning good money, and I thought, well, if I don't do this, how do I pay my mortgage? How do I pay my bills? How do I keep that lifestyle going?
And sometimes we say to ourselves, oh, do you know what? I'm just being ungrateful. You know, I'm so fortunate. I've got all these things, and, you know, this is what I'm doing. And it's such a hard situation emotionally to be in, because especially the people around us can make us feel like that as well, where they look at you and say, your life is just amazing, you have everything, what is wrong with you, you know, why do you know? And that's where the soul calling hits you. It's like, you know, there's something more. It's your soul is telling you there's something more. Your soul isn't being fulfilled, and so no one else is going to understand that. Only you are going to understand that, and you have to listen to your own inner voice.
Well, in 2014, that inner voice made itself really heard. I was unable to ignore it any longer.
It slaps you across the face sometimes.
But I didn't, at that point, I didn't make the jump from fully out of corporate, but out of financial services. So I thought that, you know what, I know what financial services will create for me and will give me, and I want something different. And I want to have a more community feeling that I'm giving back, rather than, you know, everybody's a number or everything's, you know, the numbers in the bank were just, people become faceless, and it's just the digits.
Exactly.
So I became Director of Business and Operations in a city school in London, which was a severe departure from what I was used to, in part. But a lot of the skills that I had were transferable. So essentially I was responsible for everything non-teaching within the running of the school. So the front of house, the reception, making sure that the cleaning, the catering,
very different, isn't it, from what you're doing?
Yeah. And in part, you know what, Paula, I was a bit naive and silly because I thought when you're at school, when you work in education, you get 6 weeks holiday. Schools finish at 3:30.
Yeah.
I'm thinking by 5 o'clock, I'll be at home with my feet up. But regrettably, I picked a inner city London school that was newly formed.
Yeah.
So essentially, none of the processes were in place, none of the policies. We had a very peppercorn admin staff, and when I say peppercorn, it was me and one other doing all of the administration for the school. So I went kind of from frying pan to fire for a fraction of the salary, and it really makes me recognize, you know, these teaching strikes and all the rest of it at the moment. Unfortunately, our whole education system is just a political pawn where the government says, oh, do this, we need these new exams or that and whatever else, and it's thrust upon the schools with no extra budget and no extra you know facilities or things that are going to make it easier for them. Just go deliver. But we don't pay our teachers and our education industry. So definitely enough respect to all the teachers and anyone who's working in education out there. So I did that for 2 years, Paula. And in that 2 years, I was able to recruit a team, create the policies and the procedures and the processes to mean that actually they could, you know, go forward positively and with confidence as I moved on. And it was so striking again because of my work ethic or how I work and how I show up. When I left that role, they had to replace me with 2 other people.
Right. So, oh my gosh, you were Superwoman.
Yeah, but it was I was doing things at my own detriment.
Yeah.
So again, I kind of moved from burnout in financial services to burnout in education. Yeah.
Oh gosh. I'm thinking about what you're doing now, though, in your role. Do you feel that that was a lot of grounding for you when you worked for the school because you were doing all that practical stuff? Because I think what you do now in the team that you're in with your sister, Stephanie, is you're the practical one and you're the hands-on one. And I think you sort of developed all of that when you were in the school, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a lifetime of experience.
Yeah.
But what we do in our business is that we're not afraid to buy in the services where we're not the best person for it. Now, you can't always do that. And especially when you're setting up a new business, money's tight and you know, you've got to kind of really make the finances work. But yeah, it's kind of, I'm really a believer now that everything happens for a reason and at the right time. So even though I might think this is the worst thing that could possibly be happening, it's actually the best thing that could be happening for whatever's coming down.
Down the road.
So I think it's all just a great grounding and melting pot. So even the bits where I was upset and crying my eyes out and feeling distressed or you know, stressed, all of that anxiety, along with all of the amazing bits, is why you know I'm able to show up. But also, you know, I work 4 days a week. I don't work on Fridays to enable me to keep my mindset. Because when you'll know, Paula, when you're running your own business or multiple businesses, sometimes it's hard to shut off.
It is. Totally. You know, because I've had a really busy weekend. I've just been, but I know that I had to spend these 3 days, it was practically 3 days working on something new that I'm birthing, but it's hard. You have to, you know, you've got this discipline that you think, right, I need to get this done, so I'm going to get it done. But it goes back to where you say the freedom of being able to step back and say, right, I've had that bit. It's not always like this. I can have more of a regular thing where I do have like a day off a week, or I spend my time the way I want to spend it, that type of thing.
Exactly. And also acknowledging that, you know, you might have to work really solidly to get through a certain thing, but then you can also build in to your schedule the time where you're going to recuperate or, you know, have a retreat or whatever it is.
yeah, and just relax as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I love everything that you've explained around the journey, and all the things that happen to us in order for us to get to where we want to be. Again, that's one of my most favorite sayings. Life is a journey, and we go through all these different things. So Nicky, do you feel that you've ever lost your way?
How many times? How long we got, Paula?
I know. And I ask this because I know that a lot of people might be listening to this and feel like, oh, well, it's all right for so and so, they've always had it easy, or, maybe their life got them to the way they've got to. But, I'd never, if they'd gone through what I gone through, then, they would never have achieved it. And that's why I like to ask this question, because is there, a specific time or instance, or it could be a few things, like you say, that you felt like you lost your way? And I feel like losing your way sometimes is where we actually find our way.
Yeah. I think for me, there's been a few significant ones, and a couple of them I've mentioned already.
Yeah.
When I was age 9 and my parents divorced, that knocked my world, and was more impactful than I even recognized until really relatively recently in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
Then in 2015, when I made the decision to leave the corporate world altogether, again, that was a really, really scary time, because I just thought, all of these nightmarish thoughts come to mind, that, oh my gosh, the world's going to end, I'm not going to be able to do this, all of these really crazy thoughts. But then I thought to myself, well, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that I have to go back and get another job in the corporate world, which actually is my current status quo. So let's just go for it. And as you say, that enabled me to kind of lean in to doing something differently, because I knew I couldn't continue to do what I was doing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, something came to mind there. You carry on.
Okay. And then I think the real critical one was in the summer of 2020 during lockdown, where kind of I really recognized for the first time, I used to call myself shy, and that I didn't, I would hide in the corner. For those who know of my sister Stephanie's front of house. She's doing all of the social media, bells and whistles, and I was really happy to be in the background. And not to have to put myself out there. But then I realized that I wasn't shy, I was afraid to talk. I was afraid that, if I said something, I would get it wrong, the information wouldn't be accurate, that people would see that I'm an imposter, people would see that I'm not good enough. So all of those feelings, regardless of the fact that, I'd experienced so much success and so much achievement, my go-to position was that I'm not good enough, I can't do this, who am I trying to kid? Soon the wheels are going to come off.
The stories we tell ourselves.
Yes. And so it was really in 2020 that I really got present to shifting and really leaning into, because by 2020 we've already created both our property management business and our coaching business, our property coaching business, and we're experiencing great success. HMO Heaven's an award-winning property management business. But still, it's all of that internal chatter, isn't it, that kind of can derail ourselves. So one of the thoughts that I love to call on is get out of your own damn way. Because actually, it's not the environment that's stopping you. It's not because, Joe said this or because Mary did that I can't be successful. It's because I'm internalizing some of those thoughts to stop myself.
And do you know what? This is what I wanted to say, is that we don't realize that we are the common denominator, right? So if it's something that's negative, it's us. If it's something that's positive, it's us. And when you mentioned the fact that, you were really scared about taking the steps and moving into a different direction, it's really easy to think that, oh, you're scared about, oh my God, what, it's all going to fall apart and I'm never ever going to be able to, what am I going to do? And we forget that we have everything we need inside of us. We have it. We're carrying it around. So if the situation doesn't work out the way we want it to work out, like you said, the worst that can happen is I have all this experience already. So I can move somewhere else. I can move into another situation because I have everything that I've learned along the way. Oh my gosh, it is just something that is, when you realize it, it's like life-changing, absolutely life-changing.
You're so right, because as you say, when the penny drops to say, I control everything, far from being powerless, far from being out of control, I'm unstoppable if I leave it to that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love this. Do you know what? Like you've touched on the thing about being scary and be, certain things that, scared to sort of like if it all falls apart and stuff like that. I wanted to ask about people around you, the pressures around you. So when you decided to take that leap and do something different and move into this whole new world of property and doing this and changing what you do, a lot of the times when we do that, the people around us are the people that the negative chatter around us and tell us, well, what the hell are you doing? You've got this amazing life and you've just like given it all up. So how did that affect you? Was that scary at any time in terms of having any pressures? Did you have pressures around you?
I'm fortunate that I didn't actually, in the set, not big voices anyway.
Yeah.
So because my biggest problem was myself. That was really my biggest problem, and making sure that I stayed and I tried it. Because from the outside, a lot of my friends or my peers would see this person who's achieving, the person who's the director of the bank, the person who lives in the nice house. And so they would think that, well, anything you want, you can have.
Possible.
Anything that you can do. It was just that I didn't believe that at that point.
Yes. Yeah.
And so once I kind of decided, okay, I'm going to do this, fortunately, I didn't have, there was one thing that kind of came up. Mum was a bit scared.
Yeah, so usually your family is scared, aren't they? Because, they want so much, and it's because they care about us. They want so much. They don't want to see you like, ending up in the gutter somewhere.
And also, I think Mum was most scared because Stephanie and I didn't really get on before we started our businesses together. We would tolerate each other, but between the whole Christmas and New Year break, we'd spend the Christmas together, but we'd definitely be apart by New Year.
Oh my goodness!
Living
that was
our
a big step to work with her.
Yeah. So Mum thought that she was going to have to bury someone. But no, I was fortunate enough to kind of not have those external conversations more than my own voice in my own head saying, oh, what the hell are you doing? What are you thinking at? That can't work. Fortunately, that wasn't.
How did you navigate that relationship then with you and Stephanie if you weren't particularly close before the business?
Yeah, well, excuse me. You know what? I suppose in part we're family.
Yes.
And so fortunately, we've got that trust and that bond and that love.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's any possibility that she hasn't got my back and that she's going to rob me blind or just in it for what she wants.
Yeah.
And so that already puts us on a footing that a lot of partnerships don't have. So what we realized really, really quickly is that she brings some amazing things to the table.
Yes. Yeah.
As do I.
Yeah.
And so we are so much more powerful together than we could ever be on our own.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't we do this? Why wouldn't we make it work? But in regards to the details, we had loads of meetings at the beginning and we continue to have meetings. So some of those earlier meetings were about agreeing kind of like our roles and responsibilities, who's got the casting vote in certain areas. So I'm the finance and operations director. So anything in that kind of remit falls with me. Stephanie's the marketing director.
Which
so
makes sense. You had your grounding from the bank and the financial services. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, she does her thing. I do my thing. When I need counsel or, to agree a direction, we come together and we discuss that either way, and we make an agreement and we go forward. But
Right.
if there's a discussion or an argument or we're not clear, if it's in my area of responsibility, I have the casting vote. If it's in her area of responsibility, she has the casting vote.
Right.
But also we had to kind of agree, well, if it's something really important and we're not agreeing, who has the overall casting vote?
Yeah.
Because there's only two of us. It's not
exactly. Yeah.
And so we agreed that ultimately, if we got into that kind of position, then I have the casting vote.
Okay.
And that just makes it really clear.
Yeah, setting the rules at the very beginning and setting the foundations, really. Yeah.
But also it's that ongoing communication and conversation. So, even though I've experienced some successes, even though we've experienced some successes in our current businesses, we're still human. We're still going to mess up. There's still going to be things that don't go our way. We're still going to be frustrated just as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really useful just to recognize that we can only do our best. We are only human. And sometimes we're going to have to either give each other a hug or reset or challenge each other to say, look, I know you're not happy. What's going on? Let's thrash this out. We're going to have those hard conversations because ultimately we know that we are better together.
Yeah.
And if we are really going to achieve the impossible goals that we've set ourselves, then we need to kind of get through this little minor blip, whatever that might be.
It's a fabulous relationship. It's really good. I always get to this point where we come into the end of the conversation and I'm just thinking I could just talk forever. And that's a testament to the amazing guests that I have on this podcast. We're going to sort of wrap things up, come to the close, but I think we can still have discussions around this. Do you understand what makes you truly happy?
Yes, I do now. Well, I recognize that it's not about my environment. It's not about my parents getting divorced. It's not about my role being made redundant at the bank. It's not about these other elements that are outside of me. It's about how I think about stuff.
Yeah.
Because my thoughts, and only my thoughts, create my feelings.
Yeah.
Which determine how I act, how I show up. Yeah. And the results, therefore, that I get. Yeah. So even when something is going not so well, when I'm upset, when I'm frustrated, when I'm bloody angry, I can lean into that and be with those feelings. But also at some point, I get to choose.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, we've lost Nicky. It's gone a little bit quiet. She's frozen.
Oh, I can hear you.
Here she is. She's here. She's back.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I think you were just getting so excited about that, Nicky.
I crashed the internet. What I was where I was up to there, Paula, but remind me of the question, Paula. I got distracted.
What makes you truly happy? So
what makes you truly happy? So it's just recognizing that I do have the power, I do have the control, and I can do what I like. I can be unapologetically me. And for decades, I was people pleasing. I was trying to make sure everybody else was okay at the detriment of my own well-being.
Yeah, forgetting what you needed.
Yeah. And so now I'm really, really present and clear to that. And I can dream again. I can set these crazy, crazy goals. Yeah. Like I want multiple houses around the world. One of my goals for this year is to identify some of those locations.
Your limits are as whatever you put on yourself. That's what your limits are. So, what do you like in getting still to feel emotion? So what I mean is like, maybe it's not physically still, maybe it's mentally still, but being able to sort of feel what's your next step, what's your next path, where you're going.
Great question, Paula. Great question. So I think as a coach, I'm possibly a bit more in tune to being open to plan, being open to set goals, and recognizing that it's only my intentional action that is going to bring anything to me.
Yeah.
And so in that space, I can now purposefully move forward and work out, well, what is it that I want? And what are the steps that can help bring that to me? And what's just the nonsense? What's just the fluff that gets in the way? And help me to cut through the nonsense to really deliver for myself.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you know, it's being able to evaluate the situation in your head and in your mind, and having that space to do that as well, you know.
And to know, as you said earlier, that nothing's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, I can still fall into, because even though, you know, I spoke about not feeling good enough, the imposter syndrome, those aren't things in my past. Those are things that I carry with me every single day. But it's just that I choose, when it comes up, to either wallow in it for a minute and to you know,
I think we need to give ourselves time and space to do that, because we are humans, we are emotional people, so we have to feel all those emotions. But at the same time, you know, as you say, we choose then, what do we do with these emotions? Now, where do we go with it? You know?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Have you found your tribe?
Yes and no. So
still building it, you?
Exactly. For me, that's going to be a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
Because actually, what I'm really clear on now is that just the same way that, you know, you have what you need within you to do what it is that you need to do, the same way some people come into your life and then disappear.
Yeah.
Because I'm not of the view that you keep the same people around you all the time and they're going to take you, because sometimes their place in time was in your past rather than in your future. So I'm definitely of the view that whatever I'm envisaging about my future, whatever that impossible goal looks like, that's the people that I need to put myself around, because they are the people that are going to help me to deliver and to bring that to reality. It's not the people who haven't got whatever that thing is, you know, or you know, the mindset that I need to go forward. So there are some really close people around me who I call friends. I haven't got a large circle of best, you know, friends. There's just a real handful, and people who you can pick up with when I really need them, and I know that they will be there for me, whatever the time, day, or you know, whatever.
And that's sort of like your foundation friends, aren't they? You're like stable, and then you know then that you, as you say, you have to look around to where you're moving to, where are you going, and
so my tribe is still in progress, still creating it.
I love that. And finally, do you love yourself unconditionally?
Again, work in progress. I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best. I definitely continue to give little Nicky a hug every day, and to recognize that it's that little Nicky, it's that 9-year-old, it's the, you know, the 20-year-old, the all of these different times
stages
that create the amazing Nicky of today.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Nicky, thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast. It has been the most fabulous conversation. I've loved it. If people need to get in touch with you, Nicky, how can they find you?
Brilliant. So I'll send you've got my details in regards to the links.
So if you just sort of say, is there like a website that they can find you now, or
so blowupyourlife.com is where you can find us for business and life coaching. Rent to Rent Success is our property education business, And we're all over Insta, YouTube, and all of the rest of them.
As I say, you've got a dynasty.
Thank you, Paula. And it's so wonderful, this podcast. I just wanted to take a moment actually to salute you, Paula, and all that you're doing in giving a voice to people and to show people and remind people that we all come in all different kind of molds.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that any of us are any less valid or any less important. And so I love this bit about, you know, finding other people's or allowing people to share their voice as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And to everyone listening, I'm sure you were taking away so many gems from this podcast. I will be back next week with another amazing guest. But in the meantime, keep being the true you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Paula.